Good morning, viewer. How are we doing today? Are you ready to continue our lovely book, Wheels of Life by Miss Anodea Judith? We are still in the very first chapter, and today we're going to start going over Shiva and Shakti. And before we get started with this video, I want to share something really quick that yesterday I was with my buddy Joe, and I don't know if I was talking about this book in another video, but I do remember talking with somebody about it. But there's this book that we had found at Barnes & Noble a few weeks back, and it was called How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I would listen to his videos. He would have some videos on well, I got a grocery bags in the corner. I use them for my personal trash, but they're like scattered in the corner. It was kind of getting in the way of my foot. But back to where we were talking about this guy Joe Dispenza, I would look at his videos sometimes and like the information that this guy shares. But I was reading the second chapter out of this book, and it's called Overcoming Your Environment, becoming a master of your environment. And it's very interesting because that led me to, when Wallace D. Wattles will talk about mastering your environment. Don't let this thing external from you really determine what it is that you're going to think. Don't let it determine who it is you're going to be. Don't let it determine, just don't be a product of your environment. We have the power to create ourselves, and those who are aware of that within themselves are the ones that actually do, I don't want to say greater things, but more things than what most people would do. Then they would be able to do more than what that person who's not aware of any of these forces, because they're thinking equal to their environment. And that's one thing that I, it really resonated with me in what he was saying. And he was talking about the brain and like memories, and how you could wake up, your spouse is still your spouse simply because of a memory of what you have with that person, but you could still wake up and it's something that's completely new. We wake up every day because all we are is just consciousness, and we choose all of that, and our life is dictated day by day by, our experiences and what we go through and how we see things. Because all that gets processed within our own brain, within our own computer system, and it becomes, just the way we perceive how things are, and we remember that that person being our spouse simply because, like we've been learning with the Master Key system, our brain cells remember that stuff. Like it's been reflected within our neurons. The synapse within our own brain. So it's a very interesting read. It was a very interesting topic what he was talking about and the way he was explaining it, because it's very, very, very scientific. And I would really love to read that book with you guys, because that is definitely a book that I want to read myself. And just from the little bit that I was reading, moving back to the environment, and how we've been learning about our thoughts, and thought is a creative vibration, and everything is a result of vibrations. Thought being a vibration, it must necessarily be able to overcome anything else, and since our environment is simply a manifestation of a vibration, and if thought is a creative vibration, the power of thought then overcomes our environment. And those who are aware of their thought forces are able to like we've been learning, think bigger thoughts. They're able to think greater than their environment, and that thinking greater than your environment is what's going to place you at a higher scale, in a higher plane than your environment. Because he was talking about thinking on the same level as your environment. Like don't let your environment dictate what it is that you're going to be thinking. Know that you are greater than your environment. Know that you are greater than your thoughts. Know that you are the greatest that there is. You are spirit. Remember what we've learned about the spirit, that the life is but the word of the Spirit, you know, and the life within thee, within you is the word, you know, as within, so without. You know, whatever is happening within you is going to manifest outside of you. And thinking is a process of what's happening within you. It's very interesting. It was very cool. I really wanted to share that with you guys. Let's go ahead and continue with our book. We're on Shiva and Shakti. You know, we've learned about spirit and matter, okay, mind and body. Now we're going to learn a little bit about Shiva and Shakti, because these are the two halves that form the complete whole. So let's see how the Hindus, I believe it's a Hindu tradition, if not in Hindu mythology, we're going to learn a little bit about what they use the term Shiva and Shakti for. So, moving on with our next parts. So there is no power holder without power, no power without power holder. The power holder is Shiva, power is Shakti, the great mother of the universe. There is no Shiva without Shakti, or Shakti without Shiva. So Shiva and Shakti could be representations of spirit and matter, you know, consciousness and nature, you know, the soul of the universe, the mind, and the expressions of what this mind expresses itself through, you know, the forms and what this mind expresses itself through, because it's saying there is no power holder without power, okay, and there is no power without power holder, okay, because this power will not be able to exist unless there was something to hold that power, okay, and this power holder wouldn't exist until there is a power to be held. You know, power is Shakti, the great mother in the universe, and the power holder is Shiva. Okay, so Shiva being our body, you know, our physical manifestations, which would be Shiva, and then the power itself is Shakti, the great mother of the universe, the soul of the universe. There is no Shiva without Shakti, or Shakti without Shiva. So let's continue. In Hindu mythology, the universe is created by the combination of the deities Shiva and Shakti. The male principle, Shiva, which is the power holder, is identified with pure, unmanifest consciousness. Okay, maybe I just had them mixed up right now. Okay, so what it's saying, Shiva, being the male principle and is the power holder, is identified with pure, unmanifest consciousness. So it's something that, you know, it's an unmanifest energy. He represents bliss and is depicted as a formless being, deep in meditation. Shiva is an inactivated divine potential equal to pure consciousness, separate from its manifestations. Hold on. Okay. Shiva is an inactivated divine potential equal to pure consciousness, separate from its manifestations. Okay. Shiva is pure unmanifest concept. Okay, we're still talking about Shiva. I just had a brain fart right now. Oh, we're still on Shiva. Okay, we're still talking about Shiva, the male principle. We haven't gotten to Shakti yet. Okay, I was thinking that it was talking about Shakti as the inactivated divine potential, and I got confused for a second because they're still talking about the same things. Okay, so we're still on Shiva. I'm sorry. So Shiva is the male principle, okay, and it manifests pure formless consciousness, unmanifest consciousness, separate from its manifestations. He is sometimes seen as the, quote, destroyer, end quote, because he is consciousness without form, often destroying form to reveal consciousness. Shiva is believed to have the strongest presence at the crown chakra. Remember how we learned the crown chakra is the point in which our individual selves meet with our divine selves. You know, the soul of the universe is pouring itself through us from our crown chakra. Now we're learning about Shakti. Okay, Shakti, the female counterpart to this inactive consciousness, is the life giver, is the manifestation of this consciousness. Okay, so power holder is Shiva. Okay, Shiva being the male principle, capable of infinite degrees of manifestations of itself, because it hasn't identified itself with anything yet. It hasn't conditioned itself to be a certain way yet. When this male principle starts to condition itself, it starts to become Shakti, the female counterpart to this inactive consciousness, because it is the life giver. It gives form to it. So Shakti could be the representations of our body, and then Shiva being our mind, our consciousness, because whatever we produce within our mind eventually manifests itself in form. It comes through Shakti, the female counterpart. She is the entire creation and mother of the universe. Shakti, in her creation of the world, is the inventor of Maya, commonly thought of as illusion. Now remember how we were talking about that one time, and how sometimes they call matter, this physical reality of what we live in, is nothing but an illusion. Remember how we were going over that the other day too, with everything we consciously see is only an expression or a form of a vibration. Because we can only see if we have an eye to see. But if we didn't have these eyes to see that specific vibrations, we would have no idea of its existence. But the energy of that vibration would still be there. Like somebody who is blind, light, the energy of light and color and all that is still there. But just the fact that their eyes, which allow them to see those rates of vibrations, don't work. Okay, that's almost like it doesn't exist in their life, but the energy of what that is still there. That is why Maya is commonly thought of as an illusion, because it's only an expression of the energy that's really there. Early in the Sanskrit language, Maya had the meaning of magic, art, wisdom, and extraordinary power. Maya is the substance of the manifested universe, but not consciousness itself. It is said that when karma ripens, Shakti becomes desirous of creation and covers herself with her own Maya. Wow. Karma ripens. Remember what we've learned about karma, the law of cause and effect. Thoughts being the cause, you expressing those thoughts in form being the effect. Okay, when karma ripens, when these thoughts ripen, they Shakti, which is the power. Remember, Shakti is a female principle. It expresses that. Okay, Shakti becomes desirous of creation. Okay, and covers herself in her own Maya. It takes on the form of that which it is thinking, which it is creating within itself. That is really cool. The root word shak means, quote, to have power, end quote, or, quote, to be able, end quote. Shakti is the vital energy that gives power to the forming life. It is through union with Shakti that the consciousness of Shiva descends and endows the universe, Shakti, with divine consciousness. Among mortals, the woman produces the child, but only with the man's seed. So, too, Shakti produces the universe, but only with the seed of consciousness that comes from Shiva. Give me 1 second. I want to grab my book, The Master Key System. Because there's a part that I would really love to connect with that right now. Because even in part 22, the part that we are on, I want to read the first thought. Because look it. Shakti produces the universe, but only with the seed of consciousness that comes from Shiva. So, introduction to part 22. In part 22, you will find that thoughts are spiritual seeds, which when planted in the subconscious mind, have a tendency to sprout and grow. But unfortunately, the fruit is frequently not to our liking. Okay, and he talks about vibrations all through this chapter as well. Thoughts being the spiritual seeds, and what Shiva pours down into Shakti, and then Shakti then takes that and produces it in form, manifesting it in the universal material world. It's really cool. It's amazing, like connecting all this stuff. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast right now, you guys. Each of these deities has a tendency to move towards the other. Shakti, as she pushes up from the earth, is described as the, quote, divine aspirations of the human soul, end quote, while Shiva, descending from above, is the, quote, irresistible attraction of divine grace, end quote, or manifestation. Excuse me, sorry. They exist in an eternal embrace and are constantly making love, neither able to exist without the other. Their eternal relationship creates both the phenomenal and spiritual worlds. Shiva and Shakti reside within each one of us. We only have to practice certain principles to allow these forces to join together, bringing us enlightenment from the veil of Maya, or realization of the consciousness buried within so-called illusion. When this occurs, we will have, as the old meanings hint, art, wisdom, and the powers of creation within our very grasp. Remember how we've been talking about this whole time? We are all creators, and we're here learning exactly how that this is so within our lives. Because think about it, you're watching this video. You wouldn't have watched this video until you first had the thought to check out this video. Or maybe you were looking for some type of information or a type of answer, and you found yourself asking for it, and you somehow came across this video and the information that's being shared onto it. That curiosity that you had, that question that you had, attracted you, both of us together. You wanted to know, and the universe brought that to you. The law of attraction, nature's modus operandi, its way of working with things. It's very, very cool. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go over this one too, and this one is called Liberation and Manifestation. And from what I remember, we are reading through these. We're going to talk a little bit more about how the subtle energies within each and every single one of our chakras. Okay, because how we were mentioning before, our Muladhara chakra, which is our chakra number 1, which grounds us to the physical being, which element is being earth, okay, is the most densest chakra within our system. And as we move up to the crown chakra, it becomes more and more subtle, like we were just read right here. It is Shiva has its greatest presence at the crown chakra, an unmanifest form. So, next part, liberation and manifestation. Consciousness thus has a twin aspect. Its liberation, mukti, or formless aspect, in which it is as mere consciousness, bliss, and a universal or form aspect, in which it becomes the world of enjoyment, bhakti. One of the cardinal principles of spiritual practice is to secure both liberation and enjoyment. Freedom in here and the ability to enjoy that out here. Being able to create that and enjoy those creations outside of you. Shiva and Shakti can also be seen as representing two currents of energy through the chakras, one downward and one upward. See figure 1.10, page 33, and that's in the next page. We will get to it. The downward current, which I call the current of manifestation, begins in pure consciousness and descends through the chakras into the manifested plane, gradually becoming denser and denser at each step, like we were just saying before. Our root chakra, which grounds us to the earth, is the most densest chakra that we have, and our Sahasrara, our crown chakra, is the most subtle chakra that we have. To produce a theoretical play, for example, we must begin with an idea or concept, which comes within Chakra 7, because Chakra 7 being responsible for what? Thoughts, thinking. Okay, and we have to start with an idea or concept, which is what we've been learning this entire time. You must think about it first. This idea then becomes a set of images. Okay, Chakra 6. Okay, remember our third eye, the imagination. Okay, when we think of it, okay, we invariably have a mental picture associated with the thoughts that we are thinking, okay, which can be communicated to others in the form of a story, which would be Chakra 5, speaking it out, okay. As the idea further develops, the others get involved with it. We enter a set of relationships that help bring it about. Chakra 4. Remember what we've learned about the Master Key system. We invariably meet friends, people, circumstances that will help us manifest whatever images that we have within our own mind. Remember, nature is plastic to the ideal of the individual. We give it our will and energy, which would be Chakra 3. And remember what the subconscious mind, Chakra 3 being, the thing which, we got to make this happen, like this emotionally becoming a part of whatever it is that we're doing, okay, rehearsing the movements and bringing its conceptual and physical elements together, which will be Chakra 2. When you actually, conceptual and physical elements together, when you not only think about it, but you emotionalize yourself with it, because Chakra 2 is part of the what? The emotions. And finally, manifest the play on the physical plane. Actions, which will be Chakra 1, in front of an audience. Thus we have taken our abstract conception, which began in thought, down through the chakras into manifestation. It is this path of manifestation that is said to be pulled by the enjoyment of life, or bhakti. Remember, bhakti being the most, is the world of enjoyment, and mukti being the liberation or formless aspect of it. The other current, called the current of liberation, takes us out of the limitations of the manifested plane into freer and thus more expansive and inclusive states of being. So the current of manifestation starts from up here and it comes all the way down here. But the current of liberation starts from down here and it moves all the way up here. Because as the current of manifestation starts with an idea, okay, and it moves down to creating that idea, the current of liberation starts from, just the external and liberating yourself from everything that's happening from the external. Takes us out of the limitations of the manifested plane into freer and thus more expansive and inclusive states of being. In this path, the energy in matter is released to become lighter and lighter, and as it moves through the elements, expanding and transforming to a limitless state of pure being. Thus, solid earth loses its rigidity and becomes water. When then the energy... Okay, where were we? Expanding. Okay, let's read this part again. In this path, the energy in matter is released to become lighter and lighter as it moves up through the elements, expanding and transforming into a limitless state of pure being. Thus, solid earth loses its rigidity and becomes water. Then the energy of fire, the expansion of air, the vibration of sound, the radiation of light, and the abstraction of thoughts. Because even what we've learned from these vibrations, okay, it first starts as water and then becomes energy of fire, because it starts to become more of a subtle vibration. It starts to become less solid and more airy, more gaseous, until it becomes invisible, because it goes from water, then to fire, and then to air, and then to sound, and then the radiation of light, and then the abstraction of thought. More and more subtle vibratory forces as we move along the liberating current. The liberating current is a pathway usually emphasized in the study of chakras, for it brings personal liberation. It is the pathway through which slow-moving, constricted energy gradually gains new degrees of freedom. It liberates us from outdated or constricting beliefs, from the veil of outdated or constricting habits, from the veil of Maya, from the manifestations, because it brings us more into liberating ourselves from the manifestations of things and dealing with more of the actual creations of things. It liberates. It is the pathway through which we disentangle ourselves from the limitations of the physical world and find a broader scope in the more abstract and symbolic levels. Each step along the liberating pathway is a rearrangement of matter and of consciousness to produce more efficient, energy-rich combinations, a dissolution into our primary source. As this current originates below, it is fueled by the lower chakras, our roots, our guts, our needs, and our desires. While suffering from much prejudice, the downward current is equally important, for it enables us to manifest. Each step downward is a creative act, an act of consciousness, making choices, taking a step towards limitations, allowing constriction of freedom. Through this constriction, the abstract expanse of consciousness has a container that allows it to condense and become solid. In the downward current, each of the chakras can be seen as, quote, condensers of cosmic energy, end quote. To manifest, we must limit. This requires creating boundaries, being specific, defining structure and form. To write this book, I must have structure to my life and limit my other activities long enough to complete it. To hold a job, raise a child, finish school, or to create anything tangible, we must be willing to accept limitations. Hold on, my buddy's calling me. We're almost done with this chapter. I'll call him right back after. But she's saying to manifest, we must limit. Okay, we have to limit where we're putting our energies to. Okay, remember what we've learned through the 8 pillars of prosperity, that energy. Okay, energy is by far one of the most important things that you can have when it comes to creating anything. Because, like we were saying before, all this, like the spirituality, spiritual energy that we're talking about. Okay, we're all spiritual beings. Electromagnetic in nature. Everything is electromagnetic in nature. And when we're putting our electromagnetic energy into something, okay, eventually it's going to densify to a point where it manifests itself in your life. There's so many different ways that we could put this act of creation, how it's happening. The more energy you put into something, of course, the more you're going to get out of it. Like this week, I personally feel like I made some pretty serious gains this week. But this week, you put a lot more energy into working out. You put a lot more energy into reading your books. You're putting a lot more energy into whatever it is that you're doing, creator. And you putting your energy into this specific thing is what's causing it to continue to grow and manifest in your life. Like we were talking about earlier, you cannot manifest an ox plucking out wheatgrass. The amount of energy it takes to pull out wheatgrass is not the amount of energy it's going to take to manifest an ox. Okay, we must limit where we are putting our energies, and that's when also the economy of time that we have. Okay, because we only have 24 hours in a day. Okay, really structuring your time for you to be able to do these specific things, these tasks that require you to get done throughout the day, or that you choose to do throughout the day. You have to limit yourself with other specific things in order to bring other specific things into your reality. The liberating current brings us excitement, energy, and novelty, while the descending current brings peace, grace, and stability. In order for either of these pathways to really be complete, all of the chakras need to be open and active. Liberation without limitation leaves us vague, scattered, and confused. We may have wonderful ideas and lots of knowledge, but we are unable to bring these fruits to any tangible completion. Wow. You know what's so funny? I want to show you guys something. Last night, me and my buddy Joe went to National Buffet. It's a Chinese place not too far from where I live. If you live in Fontana, it's located on Slover and Sierra on the corner. If you don't live in Fontana, it's still located on the corner of Slover and Sierra in Fontana. And I strongly, if you guys are around the area, I strongly encourage you to check that place out if you haven't yet. It's absolutely amazing. One of the best buffets I've ever been to. But I'd gotten 2 fortune cookies that night. My first fortune cookie had told me to just let go of things, you know, let go and enjoy things. And me personally, I took that as when it comes to like a relationship type aspect, you know, let go of the idea of things just having to be perfect with your relationship, you know, like, because it doesn't have to be, you know, nothing is ever perfect anyway, you know. And it's saying like just let go of the idea of that and just enjoy, you know, go out and enjoy. And because we were talking about, you know, because next Sunday is going to be my buddy Joe's birthday, and me and my buddy Omar and Joe were talking where we're going to go, you know. And after, when we were on our way back to the car, I found another fortune cookie on the floor. And this is what it says. It says, "You will find an outlet for your creative genius and accomplish a great deal." I thought that was very ironic, because I even would talk about this before. Reading these books was my outlet, you know, like to everything that I was learning and me wanting to talk about it with somebody, you know, like this was my outlet. And I really feel it's becoming a part of who I am. You know, making these videos every single day, and now that I'm getting more viewers, getting more people that are looking at this stuff that I'm reading and what we're explaining, you know, and actually getting book requests now to read a book and explain the information that's in it. You know, like I legitimately feel that we're able to create something for ourselves by doing something like this, you know. And I've had that you know, that vision of what I've seen when I started, but even so, like as you move on, it becomes more and more tangible. I guess like we were talking about this whole time, just energy, you know, the more energy you put into it, you know, you're going to get something out of it. And it takes a lot longer to manifest an ox